Indigenous children in Australia experience far more hearing loss because during childhood they have so much more childhood ear disease. All around the world where children grow up in impoverished conditions, where there is crowded housing, poor nutrition, limited access to medical services, as well as other forms of social and economic disadvantage, there's a lot more middle ear disease or otitis media. And this otitis media can lead to fluctuating temporary hearing loss in childhood, but if children experience very much middle ear disease during childhood, it can lead to adult hearing loss that is permanent. When children have good hearing, they can participate in social activities more easily, they can learn at school, they can interact socially. However, when children have hearing loss, they often have difficulties at schools, difficulties playing sport, can be isolated and excluded from activities, and as a result can feel less socially and emotionally well. Because we aim to inform communities and Aboriginal professionals about conductive hearing loss, Alison is a key member of our team in knowing how to construct messages that communicate effectively.
So yeah, it's a really important issue, and all the people should understand, and it needs to be talked about every day, because we're talking about our kids and our future. If we, like what I've said, if we're serious about closing that gap, we need to start looking now and start guiding those kids in a good way, in a good kids learn by hearing, and when you don't hear, you don't learn sounds in the school, because sounds, and then you learn sounds in your early years. When you go grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, you know how to put those sounds together, and then you go from there, you start reading those sounds. So it's sort of like it'll be helping literacy and numeracy as well, learning about that sound if you got that good hear. But if you don't have that good hear, you miss out on everything. And those kids that have that bad ear doesn't achieve in a different really big, like what I've said, it's a big issue in the community. It's a problem, and kids are not learning because they're not hearing well. They're not hearing the sounds well. There's no resources available in the schools and at the childcare centers. So, we need more funding to train staff, and funding that can sort of have some kind of project like this, helping families, communities, and the kids that have hearing problems. When we see it up here, we're thinking about the young generation. We want those young generation to try and, we want to try and make a good pathway for them, and, give them that good starting point and show them that good way by understanding them and listening to them and supporting them and educating them in their level. And we understand that they have that hearing problem. We know how to help them, but we need resources there. We need to train people. We need to share that story you need to share hearing problem story out to the communities and work with the communities and the family. When I was out there doing ops on kids, I sort of had, I've been talking about the conductive hearing loss story. Then I went in the classroom and I did my prac and the ops there. It sort of made it clear for me, looking at individual kids in that classroom, and I've noticed some of the behaviors that kids that have conductive hearing loss problems. So,
what kind of problems did you notice? What were they doing?
Like kids, they were not listening to the teacher. They got up, started going out to the to their mothers, and then maybe like one of the kids that I saw was like getting really frustrated, started pulling other kids' hair and just, spreading himself out and touching other kids, and the kids are always trying to say, move your foot or move your arm that way. He started getting really frustrated and started hitting those kids that are around him. And when I saw it, I said, I sang out to him and I said, come and sit with me here, and I started talking to him, and when the teacher was teaching, I was like talking to that child because I knew and understood him, that I thought he had a problem because I can see the indicators, like I can see the behaviors. So instead of telling him to sit in the corner, I sort of, grabbed him and, spoke to him very quietly and gave him that extra attention. And I said to him, sit here, and what's the teacher's talking about apple, and I started talking to him close like that, and sort of like when the teacher was saying, I was repeating that to that boy, or that child that had that hearing loss, and he started joining in with that activity and started, felt really safe that I was there. And it was a good time for him because he knew that he was getting that extra support, and same time he was learning as well, and that's what we want to see in Indigenous communities, especially at school. Behaviors that come out from kids is because they have that conductive hearing problem. And the childcare workers, teachers, and the adult family members, they have that information in the back of their mind that if it's, if it's not normal, because we look at the norms of the development for different age group and their stepping stones, we as a professionals can identify that, this boy's been doing all these things, and when we do our obs, we can always see it in their behaviors, and then say, maybe just think that this boy have that hearing problem, and then say, take the kids to the clinic.